So I want to first start out this video by kind of saying what this video will be about and then do a quick follow-up on my previous video. This one is going to be about these two push mowers pretty much making into one good one. This Hyper Tough push mower actually has a blown engine with a thrown connecting rod, because all it does when you pull the rope is just spin it. And this one right here has the was plagued with the base plate problem, where the base plate's cracked here on the back, and it's kind of unfortunate because this mower hasn't even had the wrapping and whatnot taken off of it. So it must have been damaged in transport somehow, or could have been a manufacturer defect, you never know. So I guess this video will be about taking the base plate off of this mower and putting it onto this engine and putting it onto this deck, because both decks are in great shape, but this one's actually brand new, and it will yield a little bit more money since it's a big wheel mower with a little bit bigger engine. So that's going to be kind of the purpose of this video. As a quick follow-up to my previous one, I know I showed y'all that this one was running. This was the other one I put, had a cracked base plate, but I put the engine from a mower that was really trashed, and actually was run without the air filter a lot. Unfortunately, this engine has a lot of blow-by in it, so much so that I'm not able to, I thought it was going to be very minimal and that I wasn't really going to have to worry about diving into it, but the more it runs, it's just creating a puddle of oil pretty much down here on the deck every time I run it for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I just can't sell it like that. Or if I end up selling it, I'll have to sell it for $40, $50 or something like that. I don't want to sell it like that. I want to see, because I have some parts in the parts bin, if I can work a little magic and get a good engine, kind of like an engine core, and swap the cylinder out and pistons, and I might actually have one that's good with a broken base plate. If that's the case, I'll swap the base plates off of this engine and put it on a different engine, and save all the good parts, and send everything else in this engine to junk, just because it's got so much blow-by on it. From where everything's been run without an air filter. So that's the update. So you might be seeing this this mower again in a future video. But for now, we're going to work on these two, and we're going to start off by taking this red one here and taking it apart. So taking off an engine is really easy on these. Actually, it's just a matter of making sure you take the safety cable off of the engine where it's connected to the handle, and tip it on its side here. I'll do that real quick. And sometimes you get a 5/8 inch bolt. This one's a 9/16 because it's made a little bit differently, and 3/2 inch bolts, which is really easy to take off if you have impact, which I do. So we're going to take this engine off real quick. And there we go. So about a minute and a half, got an engine off. We'll take it on inside here, put it on my little workbench. Well, we'll take the base plate off of it. When we do that, we'll start working on that mower right there. So next step is taking the base plate off, and I'll get to that in just a second. So I forgot to add the instructions to drain all the oil out of the engine. I mean, if you didn't, then you'll have one big, it's still gonna be a little bit of a mess whenever I get this out, but you'll have one, big mess of oil if you didn't do that. But anyways, I believe it's 7 bolts that you've got to take out here. It might be 8. Let's count. So your bolts right here, they're all the same size except for this one. So you have 1, 2, 3 right there, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're 3/8 inch that you have to take out. So if you have an impact, it makes life a little bit easier. So let's take off these bolts. Now it's time for the part of being gentle, because you really want to not break the base plate when you try and get off. So you can take a rubber mallet, and I might have to go in the house to get one, but you could take a rubber mallet or something kind of like a rubber end of a hammer or something like that, and just kind of knock it. You gotta knock it free from its gasket. So that's kind of the next step. And I did get all the bolts. Yes. So let me go find my rubber mallet, and we'll just easily try and tap this off to break it free from the gasket. Okay, so I've got the rubber mallet here now, so we're gonna try it with this. Go. You have a little bit of oil spill out, maybe. Yeah, just a couple of drips. Good thing is I don't really care about this cabinet very much because it's designed for me to have a mess on it. But the next step is you just got to be really careful, especially since this shaft here has got a little rust on it. Might have to get a file or something just to kind of get some of the rust off in order to get the base plate off, just because it's going to give me a lot of resistance. You've got, I'll show you this as well. You've got kind of the guide pins also that you got to get through. Once you get through those, a lot of times it will get a little bit easier to get off. I would caution against prying in this gap area here, because you don't want to, whenever you put the base plate onto the new engine and use the gasket seal, you don't want to have that gap to where potentially oil leaks. So just be on the lookout for that. But really the rest of it here is just pulling it off of the shaft. Like I said, if you might need a file or something just to kind of knock the rust off, maybe even a little bit of WD-40, just kind of whatever you want to use, if it's having a hard time coming off. But if it's not, just kind of tap it with the rubber mallet, or just kind of pull it off with your hands, and you should be able to. So that's what I'm going to do off camera, just to kind of save some time. We'll get the base plate off here. I will also do the exact same thing to that engine, and we'll catch back up when I'm ready to put the base plate back onto that engine over there. And just really quickly, some of y'all I figured would be interested in what the inside of this blown up engine looks like. If you look right there, you can see where the connecting rod failed and is disconnected from the crankshaft. Crankshaft's straight, so that's good. I'll probably end up saving that as long as that's the shorter one, so if I need one for a 300 series Briggs, I've got one. Here is the remnants of what is the remainder of that connecting rod. Good enough to put in the trash over there. And I'll just have to, make sure that I clean this out before I put it onto that engine. That way, none of the parts or anything like that, metal parts, get in and ruin that engine. I do know that engine has compression, and I don't even think it's been turned over. It just was damaged in transport. So, just a quick aside, I'll pick us back up here in a few. So I've got the base plate off. This is actually the engine that came off of the new mower. As you can see, for some reason, the oil seemed a little dark, and you can see like a little bit of residue on the shaft, or on the crankshaft, camshaft, and the connecting rod, which is kind of weird. It's almost like the oil got baked onto it, but the engine turns just fine, and there's no scoring or anything on the cylinder wall, so could have just, I guess we'll find out when we put it on. But the next step is I've got some of this RTV gasket sealer. You can have the red. I've used the black over the past couple years. This is just kind of what I've got here right now. I'm just going to take that actually and put it on this. As you can see, I've cleaned off as best I could kind of the old gasket, and put it on my base plate over here. The way to help it seal, what I'm going to do is when I press it in, I'll let it sit for a day. I usually like letting it sit for 24 hours before I even put any oil in it and run it. So just to help ensure that there's not going to be a leak come back, and that I'd have to come back and do this again, because I really like valuing my time and not having to do things more than once. So that's kind of the next step here. I've just got to, get the dry stuff out of there. That way I can squeeze it out onto the surface there to mount them together. Like I said, I like putting them on both just for extra insurance. You can probably get by with just putting it on one, but never hurts, right? So had to break into the kind of puncture it in order to get some gasket sealer out. So we could say I got the most out of what I could get out of it. So this thing right here is going to seal like crazy. It's really easy to put on, especially this shaft right here doesn't have any rust on it. So all I got to do is slide it on there. So let's do that real quick. Oh, also, don't forget to put your oil slinger device back on. And let me show y'all real quick. It's supposed to go like that with that tab on to that mechanism right there, and then it goes on to the camshaft. So don't forget to do that before you put the base plate back on. You just have to make sure that it stays on that tab as you're getting the base plate onto it. Otherwise it's not going to work properly. But there is a groove that it slides into, so you don't have to worry about it too bad. So let's get this thing on here. You gotta love it when the thing that you're trying to find is right where it needs to be, right? Just get that oil slinger right. Now we're good. And it'll come right down on it. Just gotta make sure you get into the guide pins there. And you should just be able to, I'll just take a rubber mallet here. Once you get it into the guide pins, tap it down. Watch where you tap it. You don't want to tap in weak spots. Okay, that looks good. You can see that. Liberal use of gasket sealer that I used is sealed it up, and so almost kind of acts as a Loctite for the bolts as well. So before it dries, let's get these bolts in. Remember, the short bolt here, just like this, actually goes into the back part here in the middle. So you might want to use that one first. You can use an impact, just be really careful because you don't want to strip any threads. You can kind of go in a star pattern, that way that the gasket seals better that way. I actually like using the impact a lot better than hand tightening, because I've actually stripped one or two of them here and there on them. So this is on. This is going to dry overnight. I'm going to give it 24 hours. While it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and put it back onto the mower deck, and we'll catch up with it tomorrow. Put some gas in it, put some oil in it, see if it doesn't leak, and you know, hopefully it'll be good. Actually, one more thing I'm going to do, and I just kind of do it just for extra insurance. It probably doesn't help anything at all, is I'll actually put some gasket sealer around this shaft seal, since I have taken that off and possibly compromised it a little bit, but most likely I haven't. So I'll do that as well. But I'll get it on the mower, and we'll catch up the next day and see if we've got a good runner here for us. Alright, so we've got it out here. Everything's dried for the gasket sealer, and I've got oil in it and gas in it, so we're going to test out to see first off if it runs, and I'm going to let it sit for a day to see if it's leaking anywhere. Hopefully it will not, especially with the amount of gasket sealer I put on it. It just got little residual stuff I cleaned off just a minute ago, so we'll excuse me, we'll see what we have here. Hopefully this thing will crank up for us. bit of a so you hear it's got a little bit of an uneasiness to it. It does have plenty of oil in it. I might have to check to see if the shaft is bent. Which it shouldn't be, because this is a brand new mower. I might actually, because what I did not do, I impacted the bolts of the engine. It seems like I can see it shaking right up here up on the top versus on the bottom. So the engine might not be fully bolted down. I'm going to grab just to torque them down with some an actual wrench, just to see if that helps anything. So I did just take a 3/8 inch ratchet and a 1/2 inch, and I tightened the 3 mounting bolts down a little bit, torqued them down. I thought the impact would have done a good enough job, but it didn't. So just making sure that wasn't oil. I did run it. It's running a little bit better now. It's still a little on the loud side. It may just need some lubricant on the cylinder, but it's not smoking or anything. We'll check the blow-by too. I don't think either of those is a problem on this. It may just be some of these engines run a little bit louder than others. So almost sounds like it's knocking a little bit. But the funny thing is, it's not really smoking or anything like that. We can check the blow-by real quick, see if there's any oil in the tube. Remember, this oil was a little bit on the dark side. But yeah, there's nothing in the blow-by tube, so I'll actually leave this video here. I'm going to run it a little while. If anything happens while I run it, I will attach it to the end of this. But as you can, I mean, I couldn't feel it in the handle really that it's vibrating and uneasy. The engine does seem like it does vibrate a little bit more than the other engines that I've had, mostly just at the gas tank, but y'all know how the gas tanks are mounted on these, so that's not too surprising. I know you probably couldn't tell it on the video, but the engine cover and all that was shaking a lot less when I did that. So I'm going to run it some, but I'll leave this video here, and just stay tuned for the next one as well. It's the same mower, it's the same kind of deal. It's actually the follow-up to the video I did a couple videos ago about switching an engine onto that big wheel mower. So thank y'all for watching, and catch y'all on the next one.